She was the Miss Universe, elevated, celebrated, and living what looked like a perfect life. But behind that dazzling image is a reality that no one would dare to wish for. This is the story of how a symbol of success slowly turned into something far more restrictive. A life shaped by pressure, control, and quiet isolation. In this video, we're counting down 10 Miss Universe winners whose rise to the top came with hidden costs that turned their dream lives into something much darker, starting from number 10. Number 10. Margie Moran-Floirendo, the crown that became a gilded cage. Born in Manila as the granddaughter of former Philippine President Manuel Roxas, Moran graduated with a degree in business administration from Maryknoll College and later earned a master's degree from the University of London. At the age of 19, destiny took her to the very top, where she had the world at her feet. Standing 5 feet 6 inches tall, Maria Margarita Roxas Floirendo, better known as Margie Moran, stood on the Miss Universe stage in Athens and won the 1973 crown, becoming the second Filipina to hold the prestigious title. To the world, it was the ultimate triumph: beauty, fame, and limitless opportunity. Margie indeed used her reign to champion cultural and humanitarian causes before she founded Ballet Philippines and advocated for peace in Mindanao. In 1977, her life took a dramatic turn when she married powerful Congressman Antonio Floirendo Jr., popularly known as Tony Boy, who ran the Tadeco banana empire, which happens to be one of the world's largest banana exporters. The couple had 2 daughters, Monica Danielle and Gabrielle Antoinette, and Margie stepped into a world of extreme wealth and influence. She promoted tourism and development in Davao while contributing to national cultural institutions, including appointments as trustee and later president of the Cultural Center of the Philippines in 2018 and 2022, respectively. By the virtue of her position as Mrs. Floirendo, she ran the Pearl Farm Beach Resort in Davao, a private island compound that became her palace. Initially, it looked as though it was the ultimate height of fame for her, but little did she know that it was to be her gilding cage. Running Pearl Farm Resort demanded constant attention, leaving her with little personal freedom. But that's not all. Behind the luxury and power, pressures built, both within and outside. The comfort which she once enjoyed soon became a perfect stage for unending struggles and discomfort. After over 30 years together, Margie and Tony Boy eventually went their separate ways, leaving her to rebuild a life far removed from the palace-like compound she once managed. She turned her focus to cultural leadership, peace advocacy, and community work, something that mirrors a far quieter pursuit than the life of global fame and private island luxury she had known. From global queen to private island ruler, and then to a life of meaningful work away from the world's gaze, Margie Moran's story is a haunting reminder that even the brightest crowns can sometimes feel like a cage. Number 9. Irene Saez, the crown that turned into ambition. Born in Caracas, Venezuela, Irene Lylene Saez Conde grew up in a middle-class family. She happened to be the daughter of a businessman and a homemaker. Nothing about her early life suggested she would one day stand at the center of global attention. But in 1981, at just 19 years old, she did exactly that, winning the Miss Universe crown and becoming one of Venezuela's most celebrated beauty queens. But Irene didn't stop at the crown. While many faded after their reign, she stepped into something far more powerful: politics. She became mayor of Chacao, then governor, quickly building a reputation as a disciplined and ambitious leader. But as she stepped into politics, the expectations of her crown followed her relentlessly. At one point, she was even the frontrunner in Venezuela's presidential race, a former beauty queen on the verge of leading an entire nation. It was the perfect rise: beauty, influence, and power all in one life. But power is fragile. After the collapse of her presidential bid during Venezuela's political upheaval in 1998, Irene's once unstoppable momentum came to an abrupt halt. The spotlight that had once followed her everywhere began to fade, and slowly, she stepped away from the public eye. Then came a different kind of life. She married billionaire Serafin Garcia Armas and moved to the United States, settling into the ultra-exclusive Gables Estates in Miami. Surrounded by luxury, privacy, and unimaginable wealth, Irene's world became quieter and more distant from everything she once was. The woman who once stood before the world now lived behind gates the world couldn't enter. From a crown that gave her global recognition to power that nearly made her president. Irene Saez's story didn't end in triumph, but in silence. A life wrapped in privilege, yet removed from the very spotlight that once defined her. A palace of wealth that, in its own way, became a cage. 8. Dayanara Torres, the crown that turned into heartbreak. Born in Toa Alta, Puerto Rico, Dayanara Torres grew up far from the world of luxury she would later enter. Raised by her parents in a modest home, her life was simple until everything changed in 1993. At just 18 years old, she was crowned Miss Universe, instantly becoming a global sensation and a symbol of beauty, grace, and promise. But Dayanara's story didn't end with the crown. It evolved into something far more public. She stepped into the entertainment world, building a career in acting and television, especially in the Philippines, where she became a beloved star. Her charm, humility, and talent made her stand out, proving she was more than just a beauty queen. Then came the fairy tale. She married global music icon Marc Anthony, stepping into a life filled with fame, wealth, and constant media attention. Together, they built a high-profile relationship and had 2 sons, creating what seemed like the perfect celebrity family. From red carpets to private luxury, Dayanara was living the dream many could only imagine. But behind the glamour, cracks began to form. After years of marriage, the relationship ended in a highly publicized divorce. The end of her marriage left her navigating both public judgment and private heartbreak. And when it was over, Dayanara didn't just lose the marriage. She faced emotional and financial struggles that forced her to rebuild her life from the ground up. The palace was gone. The spotlight had changed. And for the first time in years, she had to rediscover who she was outside of fame, marriage, and the image the world had created for her. From a young girl in Puerto Rico to Miss Universe to life inside a celebrity empire, Dayanara Torres' journey took a painful turn. But unlike many, her story didn't end in silence. It became a fight to rebuild. A reminder that sometimes, losing everything is the only way to take your life back from the cage. 7. Amparo Munoz, the crown that led to her fall. Born in Vélez, Malaga, Spain, Maria Amparo Munoz Quesada came from humble beginnings, the daughter of a working-class family in a country that was then under the shadow of dictatorship. But in 1974, at just 20 years old, her life changed forever. She was crowned Miss Universe, becoming the first and only Spanish woman to ever win the title. The world saw a queen. Spain saw a symbol of pride. But Amparo was never meant to be controlled. Almost immediately after her victory, cracks began to show. She refused to follow the strict rules imposed by the Miss Universe organization, rejecting appearances she didn't believe in and pushing back against a system that tried to dictate her every move. At a time when Spain was still under the rule of General Francisco Franco, Amparo reportedly even refused to participate in events linked to the regime, an act of quiet rebellion that made her both admired and isolated. The weight of fame and rebellion pushed her into isolation and deep personal struggles. The crown that was supposed to elevate her began to close in. She eventually gave up her Miss Universe title, walking away from the very platform that made her famous. It was a shocking move, one that cost her opportunities, stability, and the global support system that came with it. From there, her life took a darker turn. She moved into acting, chasing creative freedom, but the industry brought its own pressures. Fame faded. Roles became inconsistent. And slowly, the woman who once stood at the top of the world began to spiral. Reports of personal struggles, unstable relationships, and drug addiction started to surface, painting a painful picture behind the scenes. The spotlight that once celebrated her now exposed her. By the time she stepped away from public life, Amparo Munoz was no longer the untouchable queen the world once admired. Her later years were marked by illness, financial struggles, and isolation, far removed from the glamour of her Miss Universe days. From a historic crown to defiance against power, to a life that unraveled under pressure, Amparo's story didn't end in triumph. It ended in tragedy. A reminder that sometimes, The crown isn't the beginning of freedom, but the start of a battle no one else can see. Number 6. Lara Dutta, the crown that quietly constrained her. Lara Dutta was born in Ghaziabad, India, and grew up in a disciplined and well-educated family. She was the daughter of a wing commander in the Indian Air Force. From an early age, she carried herself with confidence and intelligence, qualities that would later set her apart on the global stage. In the year 2000, she did just that. She won the Miss Universe crown and became one of India's most celebrated beauty queens. But Lara didn't fade after the crown, she expanded. She stepped into Bollywood and quickly built a successful acting career, starring in major films and becoming one of the most recognizable faces in Indian entertainment. She wasn't just beautiful, she was articulate, ambitious, and in control of her narrative. For a time, she had it all: fame, influence, and a thriving career in the spotlight. Then came a different kind of fairy tale. She married tennis star Mahesh Bhupathi, stepping into a life that blended celebrity, wealth, and global recognition. From the outside, it looked perfect. Two successful figures building a powerful life together. Soon after, motherhood followed, and her priorities began to shift. But slowly, something changed. The roles became fewer. Motherhood and career pressures quietly shifted her life, creating expectations she could not escape. The spotlight dimmed. The industry that once revolved around her began to move on. While nothing dramatic or scandalous happened, Lara's presence quietly transitioned from center stage to the sidelines. The expectations of marriage, family, and image reshaped her identity in ways the world barely noticed. No headlines, no public collapse, just a gradual fading. From a global crown to a thriving film career to a life defined more by roles off-screen than on it, Lara Dutta's story is a quieter version of the same reality. Not all cages are built with control or conflict. Some are built with expectations. And sometimes, the life that looks the most perfect is the one that slowly pulls you away from who you used to be. 5. Jennifer Hawkins, the crown that came with expectations. Jennifer was born in Holmesville, New South Wales, Australia. She grew up far from the flashing lights of global fame. She was a cheerleader, a dancer, just a regular young woman with big energy and even bigger dreams. But in 2004, everything changed. She stepped onto the world stage and was crowned Miss Universe, instantly becoming one of Australia's most recognized faces. And unlike many, Jennifer didn't just ride the wave. She built an empire. From modeling to television hosting to becoming the face of major brands, she transformed her crown into serious business. She later married property developer Jake Wall, stepping into a life of wealth, success, and influence. On the outside, it looked flawless, a picture-perfect life built on beauty, money, and status. But perfection comes with a price. Behind the polished image, Jennifer has had to deal with intense pressures from within and without. Even with success in business, the spotlight demanded perfection in every public appearance. She has openly spoken about maintaining that perfect look, not to mention the constant scrutiny from the public and the silent expectations that never go away. Every appearance had to be flawless, every moment controlled, every flaw magnified. There was no room to fall, no space to just be human. From a small-town girl to Miss Universe to a carefully curated life of success and wealth, Jennifer Hawkins didn't walk into a cage built by others. She walked into one built by perfection itself. Perfection can be powerful, but it can also be exhausting. Because sometimes the most beautiful life on the outside is the hardest one to live on the inside. Number 4. Oxana Fedorova, the crown that was taken away. Oxana Fedorova was not just another beauty queen. She was disciplined, intelligent, and deeply accomplished. Born in Pskov, Russia, she was a law graduate and police officer who represented a different kind of power, beauty backed by authority. And in 2002, she took that presence to the world stage, winning the Miss Universe crown and becoming one of the most unforgettable winners in pageant history. But her story didn't follow the script. Almost immediately after her victory, tensions began to rise. The responsibilities, the expectations, the global schedule, everything came with strict control. But Oxana had other priorities, other ambitions, and reportedly, a personal life that didn't align with what the organization demanded. Then came the shock. She was stripped of her Miss Universe title, a rare and controversial move that sent waves across the world. Being dethroned left her under intense criticism, highlighting how quickly fame can vanish. Officially, it was about unfulfilled duties. Unofficially, rumors of secret relationships and conflicting commitments painted a much more complicated picture. In a moment, everything changed. The crown that had placed her above millions was taken away. The spotlight that once celebrated her turned into scrutiny. From global admiration to public controversy, Oxana's fall was swift and unforgiving. The same system that crowned her now became the one that pushed her out, reminding everyone just how tightly controlled that world truly is. After the dethronement, she rebuilt her life in Russia, moving into television, music, and public life. But the shadow of that moment never fully disappeared. From a disciplined officer to Miss Universe to one of the most shocking dethroning ever, Oxana Fedorova's story reveals the other side of the crown. A world where one wrong move can turn glory into punishment. Where the crown doesn't just elevate you, it owns you. But 3. Zuleyka Rivera, the crown that became too heavy to carry. Zuleyka Rivera was born in Calle, Puerto Rico, where she grew up with big dreams and a quiet determination to stand out. From a young age, she carried herself with confidence, but nothing could have prepared her for what was coming. In 2006, she stepped onto the Miss Universe stage and captured the crown, becoming one of the most celebrated winners of her time. To the world, she was flawless, poised, radiant, and unstoppable. But behind that perfect image, the cracks were already forming. During her reign, Zuleyka pushed her body to its limits, maintaining the demanding schedule, the constant travel, and the pressure to always appear perfect. Then came the moment that stunned the world. She collapsed on stage, fainting in front of a global audience. It was more than just a shocking incident. It was a glimpse into the reality behind the crown. The pressure was real, and it wasn't going away. As if that wasn't enough, the media's constant scrutiny amplified every mistake, making private struggles painfully public. After her reign, Zuleyka stepped into entertainment, building a career in television, music, and acting. She remained in the spotlight, but now the expectations were different, and in many ways, even heavier. The world didn't just want beauty anymore, it wanted consistency, perfection, and access to her life. And that came at a cost. Her personal life became increasingly public, relationships were scrutinized, headlines followed her every move. There was no clear boundary between who she was and who the world expected her to be. The fame that once elevated her slowly began to close in, turning admiration into constant observation. No privacy, no room to breathe, just a life lived under a microscope. From a small-town girl in Puerto Rico to Miss Universe to a woman navigating the relentless demands of fame, Zuleyka Rivera's journey is a powerful reminder that not all struggles are visible. Because sometimes, the crown doesn't break you all at once. It wears you down, little by little. Until the life that once felt like a dream starts to feel like a cage. The moment appeared to be perfect until it wasn't. Number 2. Natalie Glebova, the fairy tale that quietly fell apart. Natalie Glebova was born in Tuapse, Russia, and raised in Canada. Her journey was already one of transformation. A disciplined student with a background in finance, she wasn't the typical pageant stereotype. But in 2005, she stepped onto the Miss Universe stage and claimed the crown, becoming one of the most elegant and admired winners of her time. The world saw grace, control, and perfection, and for a while that's exactly what her life looked like. After her reign, Natalie built a successful career in modeling, television, and public speaking, eventually finding a second home in Thailand. That's where her story took a turn that seemed straight out of a fairy tale. She met and married Thai tennis star Paradorn Srishafen, who happened to be one of Asia's biggest sports icons at the time. Together, they became a high-profile power couple, blending beauty, fame, and athletic prestige. Their life was glamorous, constantly in the public eye, and admired by many. It felt like the crown had led her exactly where it was supposed to, but perfection can be fragile. Behind the carefully curated image, the pressures of public life, expectations, and personal differences began to build. And slowly, the fairy tale started to crack. What once looked effortless became difficult. What once felt perfect began to fall apart. Then, quietly, almost without warning, it ended. Their marriage dissolved, away from the dramatic headlines that often follow celebrity breakups. No major scandal, no explosive fallout, just a silent collapse of something that once seemed unbreakable. After her divorce, the illusion of perfection faded, revealing a life of quiet challenges. And just like that, the dream shifted. From a Miss Universe crown to a life of global admiration, to a marriage that symbolized perfection, Natalie Glebova's story didn't explode. It unraveled, softly, quietly, completely. Because sometimes, the most dangerous kind of cage isn't loud or controlling. It's the one that looks perfect on the outside while everything inside slowly falls apart. Number 1. Alicia Machado, the crown that turned into a cage. And finally, to our number 1 is Alicia Machado. Born in Maracay, Venezuela, Alicia grew up chasing a dream that would change her life forever. The daughter of a small business owner, she stepped into pageantry with ambition and confidence, and in 1996, she reached the very top, winning Miss Universe at just 19 years old. She became a global icon overnight, the 4th Venezuelan to ever claim the title. To the world, she was perfect, but behind the scenes the pressure had already begun. During her reign, Alicia gained a small amount of weight, something completely normal. But in the world she had entered, normal wasn't acceptable. What followed would turn her dream into a nightmare. She was publicly humiliated, mocked with names like Miss Piggy, and forced into a highly publicized workout session in front of dozens of reporters. She was literally turned into a spectacle for the world to watch. The crown didn't protect her. It exposed her. Every pound became a headline. Every appearance became judgment. The same platform that crowned her as the most beautiful woman in the world began tearing her down in front of millions, and the damage went deeper than anyone could see. Alicia later revealed that the experience led to serious emotional struggles, including issues with self-image and eating disorders. The pressure wasn't just external anymore. It had become internal. After her reign, she tried to rebuild by stepping into acting, television, and public life. But the shadow of that moment followed her for years. No matter how far she moved forward, the world kept pulling her back to that version of her, the one they had judged. Every public comment and media headline became a reminder of the cage she endured. From a young woman chasing a dream to Miss Universe to becoming one of the most publicly scrutinized winners in history, Alicia Machado's story is not just about fame. It's about what happens after. Because sometimes the crown doesn't just elevate you, it puts you on a stage where the world feels entitled to break you. A beautiful title that turned into relentless pressure and a life that proved the most dangerous cages aren't made of walls. They're made of judgment. She won the crown, but lost control of her own story. And just like that, the crown loses its shine. From fame to fortune, and from power to pressure, these stories reveal one truth. What looks like a dream can quickly become a cage, because not every crown sets you free. Some come with a cost. If this shocked you, make sure you like, subscribe, and tell us which story stayed with you the most in the comments section.